And welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. Before I get into this video, I'd like to ask you all to please leave a like or comment on my video and consider subscribing to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be making a single player combat build with the MOA 2 Guardian. Now, the MOA 2 Guardian is one of the ships that you can use for is one of the ships that you can use for solo running in missions. Now, when it comes to the MOA 2 Guardian, there's a lot to think about when it comes to the ship. Number one, the MOA 2 Guardian is a cruiser. So if you have the right cruiser skills, this might be the ship for you. But make sure that your skills are correct, because respecking in and out of the ship isn't going to be the easiest. So let's open this, come on. Okay, here we go. No, it just went past it. Sorry about that. Now, the MOA 2 Guardian is available to all T8 players, and here's exactly what it has. 1 drone, 3 weapon slots, 2 mid slots, 6 low slots, and a 3x3 for rigs. Now, when it comes to the rigs, this is what you're going to put in combat. 1 shield activation, 1 shield booster, and 1 capacitor need adjustment. And that is all for the shield rigs in combat. So that's where the combat rigs are going to go. Now, as for the engineering part of the ship, you're going to put an auxiliary 3 booster. So you want to excel the speed of the ship by an auxiliary 3 booster, 1 level 3 semiconductor control, and this is where the basic build on that engineering changes. You can either add a second semiconductor control, or you can add a capacitor control circuit. Now, the capacitor control circuit reduces the time in which your ship recovers its power. So the low end, when you're suffering with low power, it will recover power faster. And that is what you really want on your ship. You want it to be able to recover and come out of a bad patch really quick. Now, let's get into the actual build in the ship. So as you can see, it has a medium railgun tracking speed bonus. So that is going to give you some good accuracy on this weapon. It has a plus 4% shield resistance. So yes, it has some good shield resistance added with the shield field module. So you can go quite substantial. It has damage and capacitor need reduction for advanced command on cruisers. Remember, having max skills is very important for the ship. Having solid engineering is extremely important to run the MOA Guardian 2 if you're going to run it solo. So that is what you have in terms of those levels. Now, looking at it overall, it has a defense of 15,000. Now, with the 60% added plus the 20%, it has almost the same resistance as a battle cruiser. So you're around 25 to 27,000 effective EHP. Sorry, not EHP, HP on the ship. So that is where you're sitting effectively. Now, if you add into the mix something like a shield hardener, you have more effective resistance against damage. Although your resistance doesn't really increase to that level, with the shield hardener added, it does give you a lot more resistance to damage. It makes your health points a lot harder to take from you. So that is your overall. You have about 247 meters per second flight speed, which is really slow for a cruiser. So with that auxiliary 3, you are taking up the speed once more to reduce damage intake. Okay, so a 707 megawatt power grid, not that bad, and a capacitor of 2824 gigajoules. If you apply the correct acceleration module with the right set of rigs, you can definitely make the ship really tanky and really hard to fight against. Now, obviously, due to its lower speed, you're going to use something like a micro warp drive on it. But remember, the micro warp drive has a direct impact to the capacitor. If you are going with the micro warp drive, your option isn't going to be using semiconductor control as your second power rig. You're going to change it there from a power circuit to a semiconductor control. So it's double semiconductor control instead of one semiconductor control, one capacitor control circuit. So that is where you would go if you go with the micro warp drive. So okay, I'm going to get into this build with the weapons followed by the mid slot. Now, I'm not really going to keep track of the power requirement because the power requirement is very versatile depending on what weapons you are running. Now these are the long range weapons for railguns. They do have quite a need on the ship. As you can see, power requirement 117 megawatts. Now with three of them, it's going to be almost 360 megawatts on the ship. So yes, that's a big amount of the ship gone. Half of it is gone to this particular module. And with this here off, that means that you are now down all the way to about 50% of your entire grid if you didn't have any boosts. But with the boost coming from engineering, you should have a considerable amount extra on top of that, and we'll just keep it at that, and we're not going to go too far in depth. Now if you want to go snub nose, here is the catch with going snub nose. Snub nose is a very close range, very small attack. Sorry about that, landing in a station. Very small attack type weapon. So you don't want to be using it unnecessarily. You only want to use it when you really need that weapon to help you in terms of combat. So let's go through it. The advantage of a snub nose is it does have more DPS than the long range weapon. It's also less consuming of your power grid. But the catch with it is the fact that it has very low range. If you look at its default, it's just under 9. So 9 kilometers is the mark for where this weapon fires. So if you're going to use it, it's going to be very close range. Even with the small shield field, you're going to have the problem of enemies getting inside your shield. So you're going to want to distance yourself a little bit from snub nose and give yourself a little bit of breathing room with something like a rifle railgun. Now you could use the snub nose. It will be very effective for DPS, and you're only going to be able to fit 3, so please make a note of that if you decide to go this way. Now both are doable. This here gives you more room for your capacitor. Now when it comes to your shield field modules, C-type are not available on the market, but I believe that one of the other shield field modules are available. Let me just open it. Okay, right. The mirror. This is one of the best that you can get right now. And as you can see, it has a 56% boost to resistance. So 56% plus 20%, that's 76% plus your shield hardener on top of that. It's almost 100% resistance. So you double the effective resistance of your ship. So its HP is more like it's a 30,000 value vessel. That makes it very close to a battle cruiser, and it is being improved more by the fact that you are recovering your shield extremely fast within that module. So there we go. That's exactly what you're going to want to run on this vessel. Now let's see what's the difference between, okay, yeah, C-type does have a little bit more resistance, but I don't know any place that you can get C-type, so it's just going to have to be off the record that you can't really get it. Now when it comes to the next slot on the ship, there's one thing that you might need for the best benefit to the ship, and that is to slow ships from getting inside your field. You want to stop them from getting inside, and you want to destroy them as fast as possible. So if you went with the idea of snub-nose railguns, there's no other option but to go for Predator Stasis Webifier. Now the Predator Stasis Webifier is extremely expensive at the moment. If you use the Stasis Webifier and you're using your ship correctly, you can stop anything from getting inside your shield. As you can see, it's 94.5 million at the moment. Now you could use a Nosferatu on the vessel to give you that extra boost in terms of power, but it's not really going to be that important for the overall attack. Neutralizers won't help you. Shield field you already have. Group capacitor is something else you could use. Remember, you do need to keep plasmoids on this vessel, so you have to keep a very close watch on the missions you complete and the amount of plasmoids that you finish. Don't overexpend your plasmoids, so make sure that you use them only when necessary and when you're in combat. So let's move on. So as I said, the best match with the say is going to be one Stasis Webifier to catch enemies and pull them out of your shield. That is the idea behind it. Now let's get into the low slot. So with the remaining amount of power on the ship, being just under 350. Let's go straight to the medium shield reps. As you can see, they're 55 megawatts. Now, some people might say, why don't you just go large? Now, here's the reason why. Number one, this is 502 megawatts. That's greater than what's left on the ship. Although, yes, it is possible that you have this much of capacitor, but putting it on means that you can't fit much else. You might be able to put just the shield booster and one, shield booster and the shield hardener. Then the rest of the slots on the ship are unavailable to you to use. So there is one warning on not over expanding your shield slot. So go with double C type. Looking at the amount of recovery, it's only 700, but double C type shield boosters is definitely going to be there for you to help you. It's slightly under what you would have gotten from the large shield booster, so here's a very good option on it. So double C type to start, so that means we have 4 more to go. There's no shield extender on this one. Shield hardener, that's 3 down, 3 to go. You're going to go C type. And this is where things are going to improve for you drastically. As you can see, this is more than just a 30% increase to your resistance. It is a 36.49 plus the innate resistance of the shop, which is really pushing it up severely. You're almost untouched by damage that comes in. Now, you don't need any armor class reps or armor class systems, so just keep in mind that that's what you're going to do. Now, the next thing to throw on the ship would be a damage control unit. So that is the 4th unit on the ship, a nice all-round damage control unit. It's a good backup system in case things get out of control where you lose too much of power. Now, you will notice that there aren't any assault class rigs on it, and a nice C-type battery. Now, the C-type battery is definitely going to help you a lot. I haven't been keeping track of all of the power because there isn't that much of a difference. The first two were 55 and 55, 110. Then the second one was 1 megawatt. The 4th, being the damage control unit, does take quite a bit of power, 83 megawatts from the capacitor battery. Let me just double check on the exact amount of power. Oh no, this is 1. So yeah, we're still very low. We're still not yet at 370. And the last thing to put on the ship would be an afterburner or a micro warp drive. I'm going to go micro warp drive due to its lower speed. Obviously, this is going to be a medium C type. And this is where everything changes for your ship. Now, with this on the ship, you have a large radius, so you get locked on very easily, but you do have the ability to fly really fast. Now, that is exactly what you want for the ship. You want it to increase its speed as much as possible. So the C-type micro warp drive is definitely going to help you a lot. You could go with the afterburner to reduce the signature radius so that you don't take as much damage as you would, and it will allow you to escape a lot more than you normally would with the regular micro warp drive. So depending on your research as well, choose the one that's more efficient on your capacitor. Now, with everything that I have said that you should place on your ship, your capacitor will still drain quite fast. Now, this ship is highly effective against low range missions. So that is T6 and T8. If you are passing the T8 mark, remember, here are all the warnings. Your ship can take on T8 missions. It takes extremely long to complete. It is heavy on consumption for plasmoids. You will run through something near 1.5 million ISK worth of plasmoids an hour. So if you go into a mission, expect it to take you double to triple the regular amount of time. So if you decide to take on something like for patriotism, which is about a 40-minute mission, expect it to take you 1.5 hours. So that will cost you around 2.5 million ISK. It's more than the actual figure. I'm just overestimating that figure. It's actually more like 2.25 million ISK. That is the exact figure that would be accommodated from my current estimation. Now, one thing to note about the ship: make sure that you keep your distance, make sure that you attack the right ships first, take out whatever you need to take out so that you don't end up stuck with anybody jamming you. The ship can efficiently take on missions. It can run in the T10 missions. However, against large numbers of battleships, if you do get disrupted with the warp scrambler, you will take severe damage the moment they start hitting you. And it does hold true that you can survive for quite some time, but 50 to 60% damage in a wave of about 10 ships. That's how bad they can destroy you if you end up facing them in close range combat. So that's about what you can do with the micro warp drives. Now, everything on the ship has already been accounted for: micro warp drive, capacitor battery, damage control unit, shield hardener, double shield booster. Now, the whole idea behind this particular format is to make sure that you can extend your shield for as long as possible. Remember, you're not going to take that full 6,000 per hit from the battleship. Yours is reduced considerably, so you're going to take about 3,000 a hit from the battleships, which is still quite a heavy hit. You can recover at least 2,000 in the time that they hit you. So every time they hit you, 2,000 is recovered. How much of damage can you put on them? Well, that is purely up to you in how you fight them, where you fight them, and how you place yourself against them. So remember to be very careful about how much of damage you take. If you are taking on battleships who aren't in the laser class and don't do EM damage, you will last slightly longer. You won't take around 3,000 damage. You might take somewhere near, let's see, how much do I take when I take a hit? Trying to remember. I take about 1,500. Now I take 1,500 damage from most ships, and that's because I run the micro warp drive with a battleship, and the battleship generally has a little bit more tankiness to it by default. But it does not mean that it is more tanky than the MOA Guardian. And especially the MOA Guardian 2 is very efficient with that shield field module. Make sure that you use it to the best of its ability. Use the weapons on it to the best of its ability. It is a team ship, so you will always do better with the team. But if you are using it solo, remember it is time consuming in terms of how you use the ship. So thank you all for watching. Have a good day.